I read a comment this morning where one of you stated that when you go to the doctor, you feel like he or she is just going down a list mentally in their head, not truly listening, but trying to figure out, well, what category can I put this patient into, and then what drug can I give them? And that's true. And it's not that doctors don't care. They certainly went into this profession because they do. But unfortunately, the system is such that they're very constrained by what is the diagnosis and what is the acceptable treatment, and that's usually a medication. And that's very, very unfortunate because it's does not optimize the human condition. It's not, our bodies are so interrelated that focusing on one symptom that you can label as a disease or a syndrome and then give the prescribed drug is not looking at why did it all happen. And I mean I've had a lot of personal interactions like this starting when I was quite young, and I think many doctors that go outside of conventional medicine have either, it seems, had a personal they have a personal story to tell, or they have a familial story to tell. So somebody in their family or they themselves. So for me, it was actually both. But as a kid, when I hit puberty, I started passing out from low blood sugar. And my mom had passed out from low blood sugar her whole life. So of course, guess what I was told? It's genetic. Your mom is like that. And then when I developed migraines, my mother had migraines. So yep, there you go. And I was a figure skater, and I would get really bad low back pain, and I used to call it the grip because I would be, leaning to one side. I could hardly move. Went to an orthopedic surgeon who barely did an exam. Even at age 11, 12, whatever I was, I appreciated the fact that this was not much of an examination as young as I was. And because he barely touched me and then said, well, as soon as she stops growing, bring her back, we'll do surgery. Well, I never needed surgery. I do have a defect in my low back, and I accommodate that with the right exercise, etc. But these were the interactions I had. Then, being pre-med in college, I would work in hospitals during the summer, and by the end of a few summers, I hated going to those hospitals because I really disliked how people were treated, and how doctors behind the patient's back talked about their patients, like, well, a diabetic who is out of control saying, well, what does he or she expect, being so fat? And just a lot of comments like that. And, not that hopeful, optimistic kind of when you're young and you want to enter the field of medicine, what you're hoping it will be. My eyes were really opened. And at the same time, my mom had found a nutritionist, and we started cleaning up our diet. Not that our diet was bad, certainly, but my mother was a sugar addict, and so I was a sugar addict. And that really was the downfall, not so much the quality of the food, which was really quite excellent, but there were those issues. We also had a gluten sensitivity, which I'm 50% Italian, so we didn't know that for a while either. But so at this time, we were actually doing a lot better with the passing out from low blood sugar, getting the sugar out of our diet. And I would bring this up to doctors at the hospital, and they're like, nonsense, it has nothing to do with anything. And it was a disparity because, of course, I was living it, and my mother was living it, doing better, and then doctors just kind of eschewing that and saying, no, there was no validity. And of course, that was a long time ago, and doctors know a bit better about diet. But I think, unfortunately, there's a lot that is not confronted, not discussed. Over the years, I've been doing this for 40 years, and over the years, I've definitely had conversations with clinicians who do conventional medicine, say, yeah, of course we know that dietary change is effective, but people won't do it. And just putting somebody in a category so they don't bother to talk to their type 2 diabetic patients about their diet, or their obese patients too much about their diet, because they put them in the category of, well, they're not going to do it anyway. And that's untrue. I remember one time at a seminar, and I said to a clinician, I was like, well, my patients change their diet all the time. I don't find that problem. And he's like, oh, they're just lying to you. I still remember that, because it was like, oh my gosh, you're so convinced that yeah, they're just lying to me. That's why they're getting so much better. They're not doing anything that I recommend. But the reason I wanted to talk about this today was we had a young patient. He's only 21 years old, come in with gout. Now, gout used to be an old man's disease of an obese, inactive individual, drank a lot of rich food. And by the way, the 21-year-old is not obese, great weight, has all the opportunities of getting great food, just doesn't do it. But it used to be unheard of to have diabetes at a young age. Adult onset diabetes was renamed to type 2 because adults were not getting it they were getting it, and children were getting it. So they had to change the name of adult onset to type 2 diabetes because there were so many kids getting it. So 40 years of practice, I've never seen a kid, literally a young adult, have gout. And again, this is not someone who doesn't have the advantages of a good, wonderful home and great parents, and the access to decent food certainly is accessible to him. But yeah, he's got gout. And this is something that's happening way too often. And of course, went to urgent care because he couldn't walk on his foot, and they gave him a steroid. And it's like, that will handle the pain. And temporarily that will handle the pain. But hey, this is a wake-up call. Why does this young man have gout? It can be quite scary, very debilitating, and avoidable, so avoidable. So it just, this comment from one of you all, who I so appreciate, really kind of triggered me, if you will, because the current system is not working. Now, does it work in a lot of cases for emergency care, etc.? Absolutely. My first child was a C-section. I very much appreciated that hospital and that surgeon. We're both alive because of that. I'm not saying there's no place, but for the degenerative diseases that most Americans are dying from and suffering with, our system is not appreciating looking at the body as a whole, looking at all the aspects of diet and lifestyle and what needs to be done for that individual, from your genetics to your diet to your lifestyle to what's your history. Did you have a lot of antibiotics as a kid? How many, have you been exposed to certain toxins? All of that needs to be looked at, and it's just not. And the success rate when you do that is really high. And I'm talking about natural programs. And, that could be a plus or a minus. If you're the person who's just like, give me the drug and let me walk out and I'll feel better, that's an option, and that's very available. But let's really figure it out and really heal the body from within and move forward at a whole new health status, that's a beautiful thing, and that's available. Does it take some work? Yes. Does it take some change? Yes. Do we hold your hand through the whole process? We do. We have a very high success rate. We have an 85% success rate that I'm very, very proud of, because we do the work with you. So I know some of you are very frustrated at the system, and it's true, our practice is not covered by insurance, so it is cash pay. I know for some of you, then that's a stop. I understand. Believe me, I wish I could make it not that way, but it is what it is, and we're here for you if that fits within your lifestyle, but this is your health, this is your life, and having a body that functions. I've been on both sides of this equation. I've had fatigue such that lifting my hand off the sheet of the bed was a lot of effort. I've had it where I was so exhausted lying on the couch that, you know, I had to urinate, and I was like, maybe I can hold it longer because I'm so tired. I get it. I've had debilitating migraines. I've had debilitating low back pain. I've had passing out from low blood sugar and more. I know what it's like to have a machine, I call bodies machines, that don't work very well, and it's really impacting your life. And now in my 60s, I have a machine that's working beautifully, and I so appreciate it. But it's doable. You know, we're here for you. So if that's something you want for yourself, we're more than delighted to meet with you and see if you're a good fit for what we do and let you know how we can help. So if you enjoy this information, please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, share it with others, and we'll talk soon.